So I'm finally back, and if you want to know how CUBEATZ makes crazy samples in the style of LIL DURK and LIL BABY, this is the perfect video for you. But first of all, the sample, or like the whole beat, sounds like this. Yo, what's up and welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how CUBEATZ makes crazy samples in the style of LIL DURK and LIL BABY. And at the end I will show you how I made a crazy beat to the sample as well. So y'all get the whole process of me making beats and of how to make beats for these type of artists. And it's a very simple sample. I just flipped the main melody and then just added some things onto it. So you will see that it's a pretty simple sample and a pretty simple melody which still did its thing and is still super hard. So if you want to see how I made a crazy beat to the sample, make sure to stay till the end. And if you haven't already, check out my store, Lukaland. The link for that is in the description. I have 50% off everything right now. With the code Luka50, you can get every kit or everything else for 50% off. And if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and to subscribe to the channel. It would really help me. And leave a comment on what you think of the sample and leave some future video suggestions in the comments. And with that being said, make sure to look at the screen right now because I have some sales right now for this Cyber Week. I would really appreciate if y'all just hit me up on Instagram or everywhere else if you want to get something. And with that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe and to comment and to watch the video till the end. And yeah guys, let's go. So I started off with the sound source key from Mac, and the key was labeled or like named vintage years, and I just turned the envelope like this, and that's all I did to this key. And I laid down this pretty simple pattern as you can see right here, basically just in C with some notes going up from F to G sharp, and then I just pitched it up by 8 and had the snap to scale thing on because otherwise it wouldn't be in key. But now it was in key. I just added this G sharp note and this G note because then it goes down again. And then I just copied it over, randomized the velocities, and first of all the pattern is sounding like this, but I really flipped it, which you will see in a second. But yeah, first of all the pattern sounds like this. So it isn't really a special pattern, but I added these effects, which is this shaper box 2, and it's just a pan option which makes it go from left to right. Then this portal with the trace waves preset, this fully parametric EQ2 where I just cut out some of the lows, this soothe on its hard setting and its depth to 4.1, then this simple EQ where I just cut out some of the lows again and ducked some of the highs just to make it sound like a little bit more vintage, and I had it 25% in stereo. Then as you can see I rendered it out and I put these effects on it, which is this soothe with these settings, then this simple portal with the trace waves preset again, this halftime with these settings, this Valhalla vintage verb where I tweaked the mix to 30%, the decay to 1.64, I left the pre-delay how it was and put the low cut to 580 Hz, then this simple EQ and this simple EQ where I just cut out some of the lows and ducked some of the highs. And then as you can see right here, I chopped it up heavily. I time stretched it a little bit more, just that it's like a little bit like dirty I would say, but it worked and it did its thing. And this is how it sounds after I flipped it a little bit. Then after that I rendered it out again and pitched it up by 1, and that's all I did. And I just put this simple EQ on it so the bass isn't really like in there anymore. And now it sounds like this. Then after that I have this violin loop from Splice, which is called Mysterious Waiting Wet C minor, and the sample was in C minor, so I just left the pitch how it was. I lowered the volume, put the mode to stretch, declick mode to generic, and the first violin loop, because I have a second one for the second part, the first violin loop is sounding like this. And I will show you all the effects in a second, but first of all I want to play out the second loop where I basically did the same thing besides putting the declicker mode to generic because it wasn't needed, because as you can see it starts right here and it ends right here and I didn't chop up anything. And the second violin loop is sounding like this. And for the effects on these violin loops, I have this RC20 where I basically just set it on for the wobble and the EQ. Then this simple fresh air where I had the mid air to 19% and the high to 32%. Then this Valhalla vintage verb where I tweaked the mix, the decay and the low cut. This simple soothe on its hard setting and the depth to 2.0. Then this simple EQ where I just cut out some of the lows and some of the low mids. and I had it 27% in stereo. Then for the next thing I have this Luka OG phrase, which was in C minor, but I pitched it down by 12, put the mode to stretch, a declick mode to generic, and load the volume by a bit. This phrase will be my upcoming phrase kit, which I think I will call Evolution, because it has 3 different kits. It will be a series of kits, which will be $7.99, so it will be pretty cheap, and there will be a bundle at the end when I dropped all of these 3 kits, where you can get like these kits for a discounted price. So y'all don't miss out on that, and the OG phrase fitted perfectly, and it sounds like this. So yeah, it basically was just there to give the whole sample more texture. And for the effects, I just had this simple low cut and I panned it 25% to the right. Then for the next thing, I have this washy phrase, which is out of the kit again. And I pitch it up by 5 just to bring it into the key of C minor. I pitch it down by 12 afterwards just to like get it an octave down. Put the mode to stretch and I had this EQ on again and panned it 25% to the left. And it's again just there to give the whole sample more texture, and it sounds like this. And now for the next thing, I used this board's bass, where I had the envelope like this, put the used loop points on and the crossfade to 100%. And the finished bass line is basically just the root notes from the bell pattern, from the first bell pattern. And the finished bass line is sounding like this. And for the effects on his bass, I have this simple soothe where I had it on the hard setting at the depth to 6.6. Then this decapitator where I had the drive to about 2.5, the tone to a little bit more dark, and the style to E. Then this simple EQ where I just cut out some of the muddy lows, ducked a bit of the lows, and cut out like the high highs. And I had it 100% in mono. Then I had this Hiroki percloop, which I think was already time stretched. So I basically just load the volume and just put it in there. And it fitted perfectly, and it gave the sample so much more texture and like a vintage feel to it. And it sounds like this. And now for the most important thing, which is my mastering chain. I have this Apex Vintage Exciter with the dark mix preset. I didn't tweak any of these knobs, I just put the dark mix preset on. Then this Chroma Tape stereo with the mastering clean and open preset. Then this Every Watt vinyl stereo from Waves where I had the creamy strings preset on. I just turned down the noise, the crackle and the clicks. Then this L1 limiter as always just to make the sample a little bit more louder. Then the sound shifter pitch stereo from Waves where I just pitched the whole sample down by 1. And I had this simple EQ on there where I just ducked some of the lows and ducked some of the highs just to make the sample sound like a little bit more vintage. I will show you the sample with and without the mastering chain. So first of all, this is the sample without the mastering chain. And then after that, I just added this simple vinyl sound from Splice, where as you can see, I have the volume on 1%, so it's very quiet. And I put the declicker mode to generic, and that's all I did, just to make the sample sound a little bit more vintage. And now I will show you all the sample with the mastering chain, and you will hear a big difference. And yeah, this is the sample with the mastering chain. And now I will show you how I made the beat and how I structured it, but I will show it to y'all very quick. So this is the height pattern with the Luka Beautiful height out of my Stash Volume 3 or Stash 2023, and it's basically just a few rolls here and there, and it's a very simple pattern. Then this 808 pattern with the 808 no carbonation from Steven Sheffer, where as you can see I have some high notes, I have some lower notes and some rolls right here. Then this holding snare which sounds like this, and will be my upcoming drum kit, which I will drop with the Evolution series. And then this open head pattern, which is very simple on the 1, 3, 5 and 7, just to make the 808 hit even harder. And for the intro, I have this 808 pattern right here, which is usually a snare roll, but I brought it into key, so it gives it like a crazy transition into the whole beat. And by the way, I pitched the whole sample up by 4 just because I like the 808 notes in this pitch. And I put the mode to stretch, put the declick mode to generic, put the trim knob to 100%, and that's all I did. And the finished beat with the 808s and everything else is sounding like this. So So yeah guys, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and to subscribe to my channel. It would really help me and it would really mean a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to check out Lukaland, which is my own kid store. The link for that is in the description. And as I told y'all, use code LUKA50 for 50% off. It's only till next Sunday. So basically, if you see this video on this Sunday, which is the 19th, I think, it's only for a week. And I will probably never do this again till next year's cyber sale. So I would just tell y'all to get the Exoplanet kit if you want to make samples, and get the Stash 2023 if you want to make beats. These are like my most used kits for myself, and I just love using these kits. So use code LUKA50 for 50% off. And as I said, if you haven't already, make sure to leave a like and make sure to leave a cool comment on what y'all want to see next and how y'all like this video. I would really appreciate that. And with that being said, thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for supporting me all this way. And yeah guys, see y'all.